It is always a good day when we get to talk about Mackenzie Weegar and success in the same episode.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Locked On Flames. As always, I'm your host, Jess Belmosto, and thank you so much for hanging out with me as we round out the week with an episode jam-packed with Mackenzie Weegar goodness, measuring success, and of course, winners and losers of the week. But if you want more of that, make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you're getting your podcasts, and of course on YouTube as well. I love to hear from y'all in the comments. I think it's so important that as a show, we have a discussion, so it doesn't just feel like I'm talking at you, because there's nothing I hate more than podcasts, not even just sports podcasts, but podcasts in general that feel like they're speaking at me and they don't really engage in dialogue. But that's what I'm here for. So you can tag me in tweets at Jess Belmosto or on Twitter or X, whatever, LO_Flames pod as well. Today, I figured we could talk about Mackenzie Weegar and his few standout answers in his Q&A with Wes Gilbertson. He's playing in a charity event this weekend, and he has been in Calgary for most of the offseason, it feels like. He talked about his time at the Stampede and how his girlfriend is from the Valley in Ottawa, so she's like all about, the country, which I think is so great because I do feel like the human element gets lost sometimes, because when you're like, okay, I have to uproot my entire life from Canada to Florida to now back to Canada, there's a whole other partner involved, and you have to think of what they're interested in as well. And it's great to see that the Weegars are embracing the country and the culture of Calgary. I think it is so cool. They all have a stampede, and you make this whole week out of it. And we just have the Clinton County Fair, and the rides are basically falling apart. So you guys went on that one. But I wanted to talk about some of his answers that really stuck out to me, because I think it's important to know where your potential captain stands before the season. He talks a lot about accountability and how the organization has set them up for success. And now it's a matter of putting that on the ice and displaying it, because, the organization can meet you halfway and you have to do the rest of the work. I feel like that's something that I feel like some people might just be glossing over this summer because, everything looks so good. Craig Conroy's here, Daryl Sutter's gone, Mark Savard's here, Jerome McGinley's here. But there is still a team that has to be iced and very much play an 82-game season. And it's going to be interesting to watch. And we're going to talk about what does success look like for this 2023-24 team look like coming up next. But I thought that it was really interesting that he just talks about how much the city of Calgary means to him and how the city has embraced him as a true outsider that came in on one, and not even one of, truly the most shocking trade to the franchise, a franchise altering trade. Wes Gilbertson asked him, what does it mean, the city embracing you, and how does it feel to be embraced by the city? And he says, I have to give the Calgary fans a lot of credit, obviously, through the ups and downs of last year, and even with Gaudreau and Tkachuk leaving and now Brad Tree living and Daryl Sutter, it's just been a lot. I feel for the fans of Calgary, but they've always stuck with us and stuck with me. If they see me out, the love is just outrageous. Even when I was at Stampede, there was people coming up and saying hi, and they want a picture or to chat a little bit. It's just a great city, great people, and they truly love the Flames. And that's why I'm so pumped, just because I want to win there with the fans, with that fan base so bad. I don't know if I have ever covered a team with a fan base as passionate as the Flames. And I think it is so exciting for, that playoff run that they had where the Red Mile was just, the bars were overflowing out onto the streets, and you were selling out the watch parties, and just how exciting, and obviously going to the Dome in itself, like, hello, that's part of it too. But the Flames fan base is special. I really appreciate it for what it is. I feel like because it's not a super large market, it's not like, the Rangers or something where, you have fans from all over the country that kind of make it a melting pot. With Calgary, it just feels like such a tight-knit community. And I have felt that from the second that I started covering this team, and I think that's really great. And I can only imagine how wonderful it must feel for Mackenzie Weegar. And I just think it is so great to see the city and the fans embrace him, because there could have been a reality where people just kind of iced him and Huberdeau out because, Matthew Tkachuk left. And that's kind of, and I don't want to see your sloppy seconds, because that's just straight up disrespectful. But that's kind of just like, oh, I have to deal with you when I wanted Matthew Tkachuk. But that's not what we got. That is not what either Huberdeau or Weegar have gotten. And I've seen pictures of even like Blake Coleman hanging around Calgary during the summer. And it's really nice, considering he is from Texas. And, those Texas summers can be a lot of fun. And, that's home. That's where his family is, his and his wife's family. So it's nice to see people embracing Calgary and, everything it has to offer. And you just love to see it. Coming up next, we are going to talk about measuring success for the Flames, because success comes in many different forms, and it doesn't necessarily mean just winning the Stanley Cup. We are going to take a quick break here and talk about FanDuel here. Football season is about to kick off, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to win all season long. Because right now, when you bet on a Super Bowl winner, you can get bonus bets every single time they win in the regular season. Just pick any team to win the Super Bowl, and you will get bonus bets for every victory. You can use the bonus bets on spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started today and start earning bonus bets with America's #1 sportsbook. That is FanDuel.com/lockedon. And thank you, everyone, for sticking around with me as we wrap up the week, because it is Friday. We are officially a week closer to not even just the regular season, but players returning and camp and preseason. Like, everything is just around the corner. It has been a very long off season. I'm not going to say that this off season flew by, because it did not. But Markstrom is supposedly coming back to Calgary in 2 weeks. Elias Lindholm is coming back in less than a month. Dan Vladar, I believe, is almost there, or he is there, or he's like arriving next week. And of course, you have Mackenzie Weegar, who is still there. He might take some trips between now and then, but it kind of sounds like Calgary's home base. How do you measure success? Okay. Like, when you measure your own day-to-day success, or, your goals, what does that look like for you? Does it mean, getting your college degree? Sure. But what led you to that? What were the little baby steps, not even baby steps, the steps you made along the way to get there, right? It isn't just about that grand prize. I think, again, that is something that can kind of, you don't really want, in the heat of the moment, it's easy to say, well, we didn't win. we didn't win, so the season was a wash. No, I don't think so. I think that there are many instances where you can say we did what we did, we learned, and we set records, or we, the winning and the success of the regular season brought us together as closer as a group, and it really made us stronger communicators. And I think that for this Flames team, as we head into the season, they need to establish what their version of success looks like. And of course, everyone's instantly going to say, I want to raise that Stanley Cup. Of course, that is obviously what success looks like, but it looks different for everyone. You don't just go into the playoffs one season after missing the playoffs for like 10 straight years and win the Stanley Cup. You have to go through the ringer of the playoffs before you can win. And we've seen that time and time again. You look at Colorado, you look at Tampa, those are just the two that come to mind right off the bat. But you learn from your failures, and it's up to you to consciously not make that mistake again, or not allow yourself to fall into a certain pattern. And for the Flames, I feel like to start, it just looks like a cohesive season. They're not going on these 5-game losing streaks and 4 and 2 games here and there. You don't have to be consistently winning by any means. You don't have to go out there and have a, incredibly dominant season. You can be a fringe playoff team for all that matters, as long as you're better than last year and you don't fall into the habits of last year. I've talked about it a lot on the show. It is virtually impossible to have a season like last year's again. That is just not something that you can replicate. That is not something statistically that is likely to follow, back-to-back years. And you can't let a few bad games spiral out of control. It took until March for Jacob Markstrom to have a shutout. It took until March to win 3 games in a row, all season long. You can't lose in overtime 17 times. You cannot do that. You just have to win. If you can walk away from every game with at least a point, not every game, but a majority of the games with a point, then that's a success. I feel like you really are going to have to find your footing on the power play, and that's why you have Mark Savard to help establish that. And you're going to have to make the most out of these younger guys. I think that what you do with them this season is obviously going to play a larger role in their development. Just because you are playing at the NHL level right out of camp, that doesn't mean that you are there for the whole season. It does not mean that you are truly solidified as an NHL player. You have to prove yourself. And that is something that they couldn't do under the last management. And I really think that we're going to see more, not individuality, but maybe some more individual success. And we're going to see key pieces of the team come together and fit like a puzzle. You're going to see Coronado and Pelletier and Walker Dewar probably all make it out of camp, and Adam Ruzicka too. Like there's room for these guys in the lineup to really get those NHL reps in. More so for Peltz and Coronado, because I do think that, Walker Dewar and Adam Ruzicka have both played like a decent amount of NHL time to know what it takes. And you're going to have to rely on them to be key parts of the roster. You are going to need to look at individual success, because that's what's going to make a team successful. There's no I in team, but there is a me. Spelling is fun. But you have to look at the individual pieces of your roster that make you a good team. You're hoping and rooting for a Huberdeau bounce back. 85 points at the minimum, I would say. I feel like 85, that's the threshold. You're looking at Jacob Markstrom, a .905 save percentage. If we can just coast with that. Sharon Govich, I don't know anything about this man other than his fiance just had a baby. Hopefully he brings dad's superpowers and gets settled into Calgary and meshes well with the lineup. Andrew Mangiapane needs to find his offense again and establish himself as that middle six player. And then, of course, Oliver Shillington coming back, you have to look at, well, how does he fit in? Is he taking care of himself? Is this team providing, a good environment for him? And that's not necessarily something you can manage and measure, as an outsider looking in. But I feel like you're going to see some of it might just stare us in the face. The same way it did last season with post-game interviews or post-season podcasts. It was very easy to read the body language, and just not even the body language, but the comments from your coach. Like that, I've spent enough time talking about Darryl Sutter and that psychological warfare that he put poor Huberdeau and Pelletier through. Like there was no need or reason for that. But you hope that this is a positive environment and where everyone can thrive, not just your star players, not just the players that make, a key difference, but truly everyone. Are you a fringe playoff team, or are you going after it? Are you a dominant team? Are you going to play the way you did 2 seasons ago? Probably not. But are you going to keep up, with the consistency and the, run away with the division? Are you? Or are you going to be sitting here two games before the playoffs start, hoping that Nashville loses again, or that it comes down to game 82? Granted, they are not icing Nick Ritchie out there for a shootout, so you don't have to worry about that. But there are so many things that you want to wipe out of the equation. And we're going to talk more about that as the season goes on, obviously, because we're going to see those things. We're going to see negativity that happens. You're going to have positives in your game and you're going to have negatives. And they're going to be the obvious things versus, the maybe not so obvious. And that's why we have Nick, because Nick is a fantastic film analyzer and has the ability to break it down and make sense of it for us laymen's. And he will be back next week. He's enjoying himself on vacation this week, and I don't think anyone deserves that more than someone who is chronically online like us. But coming up next, we are going to wrap up the week with winners and losers of the week. And my God, it has been quite the week here. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with me on Locked On Flames. You can follow me on Twitter at Jess Belmosto. I don't just search in sports for these categories, right? Because it is the off season. Like, unless someone is signing a ginormous, super contract, do I consider this off season? There's rarely any news that makes me go, this is the winner of the week inside hockey during the off season. Kevin Rooney got married. Andrew Mangiapane is getting married this weekend. Walker Duehr got married. Those are very big things to celebrate. But there's also other things outside of sports that matter just as much, if not more. Barbie surpassing $1 billion at the box office might be one of those things. People don't go to the movies anymore. They really didn't before this, right? A lot of people were priced out of the movies. It's not cheap to take a family of 4 to the movies. It's not cheap to go to the movies on a date night with 2 people. It costs me $30 just for the tickets. And then the snacks, I'm going to the dollar store and sneaking in my Mike and Ike's and a drink. not paying $17 for whatever. For people to come together and feel a sense of community for a movie that is nostalgic for so many of us. It's wonderful. I think it is so great to see people just like rallying around and like dressing up and wearing pink and embracing it, going with their family and then going again with their friends and then even going to see it by itself. That is so exciting. People, I feel like we are losing that sense of community, even in like day-to-day life with neighborhoods. I feel like I never see kids playing out in the neighborhood, going like running back and forth between the houses and yards. Like I did that all the time as a kid. I don't really see that anymore. And that's, to me, that's very sad. And that's just showing that times are changing. And for a movie in 2023 to surpass $1 billion, they did something. They absolutely did something there. Now, this loser of the week is, I'm just going to put a massive trigger warning on it. Hockey Canada, Team Canada, sexual abuse stuff. So I'm not going to obviously go into graphic detail or anything, but just mentioning it. Hockey Canada, Team Canada, whatever you may call it, has failed. Where is the report? They said sometime early summer, or just even during the summer. It is the middle of August. Some people were speculating that it's going to drop after a certain player gets his day with the cup. I don't know. We've had quote-unquote insiders saying that the league is preparing these suspensions and serious punishments and, kind of doing these like side-eye eyeball emojis towards something so serious and so, like, this is not the trade deadline and seeing who is being moved for cap reasons or because they are a problem in the locker room. This is literally the outcome of heinous actions. This is not something to be like gossipy about. This is not something to, subtly hint at because you need engagement. No. If you know who these 5 players are, get out there and tweet their names. Just do it. Since Hockey Canada does not have the audacity to do it themselves, someone just needs to leak it. It's incredible that these trades can leak and everyone just kind of hears things from owners and whatnot when they want the story to get out. But, why isn't anyone working to get the report out? No amount of DEI panel and reporting and hiring will make you look better at the end of this. There are serious accusations on the table that have been investigated, and if suspensions are going to come down, you failed. You absolutely failed. No one is going to look at the results of your hirings or the panels you have established, these committees, and say, maybe they're onto something. In fact, it is just disgusting. As someone who has done PR work for in professional hockey and for players associations, sometimes you just have to rip the Band-Aid off. And I hate even referring to it as that because it is so much more serious than that. Put the names out there, release the report, and let the Ontario police do what they need to do and let the NHL hand out their suspensions. There does not need to be a cushy landing for these players. Their actions are their own actions. And they deserve to face every consequence. But that will do it for me today here on Locked On Flames. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate y'all tuning in through the off season. It has been a long 4 months, but we are almost there. It has been over 4 months since the Flames played a hockey game. Can you believe that? Can you believe it? I will be back on Monday, and I hope you all have a great, safe, fantastic weekend. Maybe we'll start the week with the captain being named. Who knows? Find out here on Locked On Flames.